Dutam Parijana Saritam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha Madhe Kabandamatsangin Maguro Man Mahadana Man Nistarakamat Bhagya Madananda Namostute. Arion Tat Sat. Okay. So Tridiketu has graciously received this curse. And now Lord Mahadev, Shiva, he has a comment to make about the greatness of devotees to his wife, Parvati. So he speaks it to her in front of all the sages, the residents of Siddhaloka, Narada Muni, and other great persons. And this is what he has to say. So we left off with, which verse is it?
26.
Yeah. Okay, so starting with verse 27. Shri Rudra Uvacha. Drishtavatyasi sushroni haret abhuta karmana mahatmyam britya brityanam nishprehanam mahatmanam. Translation. Lord Shiva said, my dear beautiful Parvati, have you seen the greatness of the Vaishnavas? Being servants of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, they are great souls and are not interested in any kind of material happiness. So he refers to his wife as Sushrani. Prabhupada translated as "Oh beautiful Parvati." And Sri Vishwanath says this is suggestive that you are very beautiful, but you do not understand the beauty of Bhakti, Gyan, and Vairagya. This beauty you have not understood. So you should see this beauty. So have you seen it? You are very beautiful, but have you seen this beauty? Seeing what? So Drishtavatyasi. Have you seen? Seeing what? Mahatmyam Britya Brityana. The greatness of the servants of Harer Abhuta Karmana, of Hari, who performs extraordinary activities. Abhuta Karmana, one who does the astonishing acts. So our commentators say here that the reason Hari is referred to as Abhuta Karmana is because Lord Shiva wants to say, just see how the Lord has arranged for you to become offended by his words, for you to curse him, and in this way bring out the glory of the Vaishnavism of this particular Vaishnava. This is all the arrangement of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, he is called as Abhuta Karmana. This phrase is used a few times in the Bhagavatam. I know at least one other occasion when Hari is referred to as Abhuta Karmana in the first canto, when Yudhishthira Maharaj is distraught, and all the great sages and even Krishna himself is trying to pacify Yudhishthira Maharaj from the pain of feeling responsible for the death of over 600 million people. So that time, Krishna is also referred to as Abhuta Karmana, one who did the astonishing act of not allowing Yudhishthira Maharaj to be pacified, not even by his own words, so that Bhishma Dev would have to take up the work. And in this way, the glory of Bhishma would be brought out. That is one other occasion that I can distinctly remember Hari being referred to as Abhuta Karmana. This is at the end of the first canto, chapter 8, after Queen Kunti has offered her stuti. So Hari is doing these astonishing arrangements to bring out the glories of Vaishnavas. So Mahatmyam Britya Brityana, have you seen it? Have you seen this glory, the glory of his bhakti, the glory of his gyan, the glory of his vairagya? Nishprehana Mahatmana. So this is the nature of the great souls, Mahatma. What is that verse from Gita? Mahatmanas tumam partha daivam pakritam ashrita vajanti ananya manaso. They do bhajans with minds that know nothing else but Krishna, because they are sheltered in the divine Prakriti, Mahatmanas tumam daivam pakritam ashrita. So this is the greatness of the great souls, that they are nishprehana. Nishprehana means they are without other desires. Anya abhilashita shunya. Therefore, being without other desires, they cannot be frustrated by life's dualities. The reason we, the conditioned souls, get frustrated by life's dualities is because we do have other desires related to enjoying this world. And when those desires get frustrated, we become angry or we become depressed. We lament. But if you're without such desires for worldliness, then what worldliness can attack you? There's no worldliness that can attack. So this is very astonishing. Nishpreha Namahatmana. This is the greatness of great souls. They have no other desire than satisfying Krishna, then bhakti. So being without other desires, they're not affected. And so this has been demonstrated by Tritaketu. So he's asking her, have you seen this? I guess the sense here is that even you can see with your two eyes, but you can miss it. Next verse. The passage goes from 27 to 35, by the way. Next verse, very famous verse. Narayana parasarve nakutashthana vidyati swarga pavarga narakeshwapi tulyartha dharshana. A very famous verse. So this is not true only of Tritaketu, but this is true of all servants of Narayana. Narayana parasarve. All the Narayana paras, they are like this only. This is their quality. What quality? Nishprehanam. You can only be nishprehanam if you're tasting the happiness of bhakti. Otherwise, you cannot be nishprehanam. That's not possible. And it's, by study of your own self, you can understand this. Are you tasting the happiness of bhakti? Answer no. Then you have so many desires. That is a fact. You cannot. If you're tasting the happiness of bhakti, then you will be nishprehanam. You'll be like this. If you're not tasting the happiness of bhakti, then so many desires are there. Bhukti mukti spriha yava pishachri hedivartate. Tava bhakti sukhasyatra katama buddhayo bhavet. How can the happiness come in the heart of one? How can the happiness of bhakti appear in the heart of one who is haunted by the witch of bhukti and mukti? Bhukti mukti spriha. Yeah, but this verse is saying, so long as the witch of bhukti and mukti is dancing in the heart, how can the happiness of bhakti come there? But now we're saying that only when the happiness of bhakti comes can these desires come out. They call this a catch-22, or this is called the fault of mutual dependence. Anyway, you may start off with so many desires because anya abhilashita shunyam, to be devoid of other desires, this is the tatasya lakshana of bhakti. Tatasya lakshana means that which is not a part of pure bhakti, but helps to illuminate the nature of pure bhakti. Tatasya lakshana also means the effect of the performance of the sarup lakshana of bhakti. So sarup lakshana of bhakti is anukuyena krishna nushidana. So if you do that part, then as the effect of tatasya lakshana will also come sooner or later. What is the verse from Upadeshamrita? Syat Krishna nama charita disatapa vidya pikto patasya rasanashana roshikanu kentwadara anudinam savukalu jushtam, right? This particular verse, right? So we're not tasting the name of Krishna sweet like sugar candy, but if we have the jaundice of avidya, we taste it to be very bitter. Kentwadinam anu adarat. But if you, adara means with respect, with reverence, like assiduously, reverentially. If every day you keep chanting this holy name, then gradually the sweetness comes. So that means if you do the Sarup Lakshana of Bhakti, the Tatasya Lakshana will come later. But so long as the Tatasya Lakshana is not there, then you're not tasting the sweetness of Bhakti. So because one is not tasting the sweetness of Bhakti, so many desires are allowed to fester around, right? So Nishprehanam, this is a quality of Tritaketu, but not only of Tritaketu, Narayana Parasarve. All the devotees of Narayana, they are like this. So Nakusteshtana Bibyati. Therefore, they do not have any fear in any condition in life. It seems that this verse is linking the fear to desires. Certainly that must be true. We have so many, most of our desires are related to the future. And that's when the fear comes into play. Fear is usually this psychic turmoil that is due to worry about the future, the results that are going to come in the future. We usually lament the past, we are afraid of the future, and we are bewildered in the present. So your desires are linked to the future. Oh, what is going to happen to me, this, that, and the other, so you feel the fear. But if you have no desires separate from Krishna, and in other words, in all situations, only bhakti will be done. So what is the problem? So Nakutashana Bibiti, all the servants of Narayana, they're like this. They don't have any fear at any condition because they're nisprihana. Swarga apavarga narakeshu api. Tulyartha darshinaha. They see tulya artha, the same value everywhere, whether in Swarga, Apravarga. Swarga means heaven, liberation, Narakeshu api, and even hell. All they see to have equal value. Equal value means here is no value. Tulya artha darshinaha. They see with equal value means no value. Where is the artha in heaven? There's no artha there. Where is the artha in liberation? Definitely no artha there. Where is the artha in hell? There is also no artha there. The only artha is paramartha, that is prema bhakti. This is called the purushartha shiromani, the crash jewel of all purusharthas. That is prema bhakti. So bhakti yoga, that is the only artha. There is no other artha anywhere else. If you see artha in other places, that is called anartha. You understand? When we have vision of artha in other places, aside from bhakti, that is called as anartha. So this is why we have the problem, so many anarthas. This verse is also suggesting that heaven and liberation is equal to hell for Vaishnava. He said this is the same as hell only. Not that, oh, now I'm at the spa, I enjoy nicely. And now I'm in hell, this is so. No, all of it is hell only. Why? Because there's no artha there. There is no bhakti there. Just like when Prabhupada, it's in America. This example's coming in my mind. We hear the story, maybe from memories, where Prabhupada's in the car and he sees some man playing golf. And Prabhupada asked, what is this? And the devotee said, you take a stick and you hit a ball into a hole. So the devotees have described it in very simple language. And apparently Prabhupada began to cry. He said, just see what they'll do to forget Krishna. So like this, there are no artha in the golf. There's no artha in the sport. No artha is here. Tulya artha there. They see equal artha everywhere, meaning there's no artha there. The only artha is there with bhakti. So as long as I have bhakti, then in any situation, I'm good. And without bhakti, no situation is good. So like this is the quality of the grace. So have you seen it? This is what he's asking his wife, Parvati. Have you seen this? Next verse. Oh, I'll read the translation. Devotees solely engaged in the devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayana, never fear any condition of life. For them, the heavenly planets, liberation, and the hellish planets are all the same. For such devotees are interested only in the service of the Lord. Yes. Next verse. Dehinam deha samyoga dvandvani shuralilaya sukam dukam vrittir janma shapo nugraha evacha. So because of the actions of the Supreme Lord's external energy, the living entities are conditioned in contact with material bodies. So what is the condition of those who are not Narayana Parasarve? What is this verse is answering that question. So the Narayana Para people, they're like this. But if you are not Narayana Para, what are you like? So this question is answered here. Dehinam, Dehi Sam Yoga. Those who are embodied, the Dehinam, Deha Sam Yoga, due to contact with the body. Deha Sam Yoga means like linked. They become linked to a Deha, material body. As a result of that, Dvandvani Ishvara Lilaya, due to the Ishvara Lilaya. So the Ishvara Lilaya here means the Maya Shakti. Lilaya here is referring to the Maya Shakti. I think Sri Vishwanath says whose actions are able to unfold due to the glance of Mahavishnu. Right? Otherwise, Prakriti is just sitting in equilibrium, not doing anything. And when Mahavishnu glances, then she begins to unfold her many kaleidoscopic type beauties, which we get infatuated with. So Ishvara Lilaya is the Maya Shakti. And from that Maya Shakti, the Dvandvani, the dualities start to manifest. So those embodied souls who are linked with the body, they become bewildered by the dualities of Krishna's Maya Shakti. And then some list is given. Sukam, Dukam, happiness and stress, Mritir Janma, birth, death, Shapo, Anugraha, curses and favors. These are the different types of dualities that the souls become lost in as a result of their contact with the body. As Krishna says in Gita also, Icha Dvesha Samutena Dvanda Mohena Bharata. Sarvabhutani Samoham Sarga Yanti Panantupa. This verse comes in the context of Krishna saying, in 726 Bhagavad Gita, that I know past, present, and future. I know all that exists, but me, no one knows. Well, how come no one knows you? And then he quotes this verse, Itra Dvesha. They don't know me because they're absorbed in dualities. It's not that they couldn't know me, but due to their absorption in dualities, I remain hidden behind the curtain, so to speak, of dualities. The curtain of, we say sometimes the curtain of Yoga Maya, but the curtain of Maya is duality. So I'm behind that curtain, but they're just looking at the curtain only. And the curtain is very beautiful. It has many colors, and you're getting lost in the curtain. What is behind the curtain, you're not seeing. So it's not that we couldn't know Krishna. We could know, and it's not impossible to know. But because of being lost in dualities, we don't know. Don't know means we don't hear. That is one meaning. Because as Krishna says in 7.1 Gita, he said, Tatsrino, just hear. Asangshayamam, what is that? Asangshayam, samagramam. Yata, Gyasasi Tatsrino. Just hear, and you'll know me in full, free from doubt. That's what he says. Simply, you do this Shravan, and you'll know me in full, free from doubt. And then verse number 3, Bhagavad Gita, he says, me, no one's knowing. That means no one's hearing. How come no one's hearing? Because duality is taking over. I don't have time for hearing. So the duality, I'm getting lost. Devotees, we don't have time for bhajan because of dualities. In this way, if you're not Narayana per Arsave, then this is the condition. Lost in the Maya Shaktis, dualities like this, suffering. The dualities of happiness and distress, birth and death, curses and favors are natural byproducts of this contact in the material world. Next verse. So an example is given. This is meant to be like an analogy. Aviveka krita punso yarta bheda ivatmani gunando shavikalpashcha videva sajivat krita. So as one mistakenly considers a flower garland to be a snake, or experiences happiness and distress in a dream, so in the material world, by a lack of careful consideration, we differentiate between happiness and distress, considering one good and the other bad. This is meant to be an example, an elucidation of the previous verse. Aviveka krita punso hyarta bheda iva atmani. So just like one sees within oneself, Atmani, sees within oneself, Artha Bheda, a difference between Artha. So this is I guess this is implied, at least the way Prabhupada's translation is coming, the commentary is coming. The implication here is that when one is sleeping, so when you're sleeping, you're looking within yourself, right? Within your mind, because that is, your senses are suspended from the external world. So within your mind, Atmani here means within your mind, you see Artha Beta, you see differences of Artha when you're dreaming, right? Oh, this is very good. Like if you're having a pleasurable dream, oh, very nice. If you're having a nightmare, very bad. You see, but it's all dream substance. It actually have no substance whatsoever. That is just, you're imagining that. And this is aviveka krita. This is due to a lack of discernment. Aviveka. Aviveka means the lack of discernment. Vivek means discrimination. So avivek, the lack of discernment. Due to the lack of discernment, a living entity will see within himself a difference between artha and the dream. But it's just dream only. There's no artha there. Just like, I don't know if you've ever had the experience of a lucid dream. I had only a few times in my life where I realized I was dreaming. When you realize you were dreaming, then the dream loses its appeal. Maybe I've shared this before, but I particularly remember being like, I don't know, 9 or something. And I used to have a reoccurring nightmare for about 3 or 4 years in my young life. It would happen like at least once a week. It was quite intense. And I remember distinctly telling myself, I'm going to remember that this is a dream, and it happened. One day I was dreaming, I was having the same reoccurring nightmare, and I realized it was a dream while I was dreaming. And my brother was in the dream also, and he was afraid in the dream. And I said, don't worry, this is all just a dream on me. There's no meaning to this. I remember distinctly having that experience as a child. It was very interesting. I had heard about the lucid dreaming, but so like that, only Aviveka krita, only when you don't know you're dreaming, then you'll say, oh, nightmare, this is good dream, this is bad dream. But once you know that you're dreaming, then you don't see any difference. What is the difference? They're all equal, actually. Just substanceless dream stuff. So like that, just as one who is dreaming sees within himself a difference in artha, and this is due to avivek, this is due to lack of discernment. So similarly, in waking life, guna dosha vikalpascha bhid eva shaji vakrita. So similar in waking life, guna dosha vikalpascha bhid. We imagine vikalpa, we make the imagination of difference. Bid means like a difference between guna and dosha. Guna means this is good, dosha means this is bad, quality and fault. In waking life, we make the distinction. But actually, it is all samsara. What is the distinction? It's very interesting how the good turns into the bad, and the bad can turn into the good in the relative world. It's very, like you asked a question like, is killing wrong? Is killing wrong? So the answer is yes and no. It depends on the circumstance of the relative energy. So only we're imagining so many differences like this. Guna dosha vikalpascha eva. We're seeing this in waking life. Just as we see difference in dream life, then there's no difference. So in waking life, we're seeing difference, but there is no difference. So the analogy is given, shaji bhatkrita. So shaji, I guess, is referring to a flower garland. So one may see the flower garland to be like a snake if there's like bad light or something like that. You may mistake the flower garland for something that it's not. So in the same way, we're looking at the material energy and taking it for something that it is not and getting bewildered by that. But actually, all the thing has no value to it whatsoever. So this is an elucidation of the previous verse. The Ishwar Lila, Krishna's Maya Shakti is bewildering the jivas, and they're making these discernment, but actually there's nothing there. So the Vaishnavas, they can see this clearly because they only have shelter in bhakti. So it doesn't even matter. The reason they're not getting bewildered is not like they have to work hard to like really sit with it and like discern the distinction. Not like that for the bhaktas. For the bhaktas, they just doing bhakti. So it actually doesn't make a difference this way or that way. For the Gyanis, they have to do hard work of discerning. Our commentators make this point, and they sometimes have hard time because that Gyan is also depending on Maya Shakti only, right? The Vidya Vritti of Maya Shakti, the Saptaguna. So they also have hard time maintaining that awareness because it's still connected to Maya Shakti. The bhaktas, like Chittaketu, these level bhaktas, they don't have hard time seeing through it because they don't have to really see through it. They're just engaged in bhakti and everything becomes wonderful because of that. Prabhupada quotes a nice verse from CC. The context of this verse is when Maharaj was speaking about sannyasa dharma. And he said, Dvaita Bajra Bajra Gyan Sabamano Dharma, E Pala E Manda E Sabha Brahma. So he says that this is the mano dharma. This is the dharma of the mind. What is the dharma of the mind? To be fixed in dualities, saying this is auspicious, this is inauspicious. No, you are a mental speculator. E Sabha, E Pala E Manda E Sabha. This is all Brahma. This is all illusion. Okay. Next verse. Let's see here how. Yeah, so this verse I kind of already explained. Vasudevi Bhagavati Bhaktam Udharatam Nirnam Jnana Vairagyam Viryanam Nahi Kashya Vipashraya. So this verse I kind of already explained just now. Those who are having bhakti udharatam, for those who are humans who are carrying bhakti for Vasudev, who is Bhagavan, they're carrying that bhakti in their heart, then they are also endowed with Jnana Vairagya Viryanam, Jnana and Vairagya, and the powerful, Viryanam means like power or strength that comes from Jnana Vairagya. They get that automatically by Bhakti Yoga. Vasudevi Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita. Janayati Ashu Vairagyam Jnanam Chaya Yara Hetukam. So this is a comment where Sri Vishwanath points out the Gyanis, they have to work very hard to maintain their Gyan, because their Gyan is based on the Vidya Vritti of Maya. Whereas the Bhaktas, they're not working hard to maintain the Gyan. They're not working hard to maintain Vairagya. These are Ruchi Bhaktas and higher. If you're not Ruchi Bhakta, we got to work a little hard. We have to do prayas to cross over Nartana Vritti come Nishta. So. But once Ruchi comes, Ruchi Bhakti onward, they're not working hard with Jnana and Vairagya. That is not required for them. They are naturally endowed with that on account of their extreme absorption in bhakti. Nahi kashyap yapashraya. Nahi kashyap yapashraya means they know no other shelter, or they find no other shelter than this bhakti or to the Lord. So whatever situation they find themselves in, they're renounced on account of just having interest in bhakti. They get invitations. Hey, you want to go to this party and do this thing and that? They said, no, I'm doing bhakti. I cannot go right now. I'll go later. Call me later. I'll go. Like now, I'm getting invited to do this, that, and other in New York. In New York, if you want to be degraded, it takes less than 5 seconds. Very easy. So friends are inviting, Jaya, hey, you want to come hang out this time? That's time. Okay, when does the program start? It starts at 11:30 p.m. I'm like, okay, granted, I'm not like the most serious bhakta, but I'm like 11:30. I said, maybe I don't value bhakti so high, but I do value sleep a lot. I was like 11:30, that's just a little bit too much for me. I like to get up early in the morning and like read Srimad Bhagavatam and chant japa. And that's a little bit more important to me than going and hang out at 11:30 at some club or something. Granted, like the people who are asking, they're like friends, they're acquaintances, but some of them are like newer devotees. And so they're still very connected to their regular life. So, hey, Jai, you want to come to this program? And I'm going to be doing this and another. I'm just like, yeah, man, catch me later. Right now, I got to do I got to sleep though, because I got to teach tomorrow morning. I got this thing going on. This is how bhaktas do Jnana Vairagya. This is why their Jnana Vairagya is happily performed. Susukam kartam avyayam. This is why bhakti happily performed, right? Of course, in our institutions, we don't do Vairagya very well. It's very bitter experience. That's why devotees keep falling down, leaving the ashram, getting caught with their hand in a cookie jar. Because we don't do it. We try to do Vairagya as a means to bhakti. But Vairagya is the effect of bhakti. It is not the means to any sadhya. Vairagya is not the means to any sadhya. Bhakti is the means to the sadhya, which is also bhakti. Vairagya is not the means, the sadhana to attain the sadhya bhakti. So we do it like a little bit backwards. So we do experience the misery like the regular Gyanis. But if you do it nicely, then this is the Jnana and Vairagya of the Bhakta. Actually, I'm sheltered here only. I have to get up early. I have to do my japa, which I like to do. I like to study. I also like to do that. I like to worship. I have to chant my stutis. And in that way, Jnana and Vairagya automatically achieved. So this is the distinction between the regular folks and the Bhaktas here. Next verse. Yeah, okay, we explained that verse. A few more verses here before Shiva finishes. So the next 2 verses, he makes the distinctions between himself and the great souls and God. First, he describes the great souls. So great souls means in terms of their position within the cosmic order. Naham Verinsho, na Kumara Narado, na Brahma Putra Munayo Suresha. Vidama yasye hitam ankshaka natat sorupam pritagishtamanina. So first 2 lines is a list. Neither I myself, Shiva, neither Brahma, neither the Kumaras or Narada, neither the Brahmaputra. Brahmaputra means the sons of Lord Brahma, like the mental sons, like Saptarishis and so on. Neither the Munis or the Devatas. Vidhama yasyehitam. We do not know the activities of the Supreme Lord. We cannot understand the import of what God is doing. Bhishma Deva says something similar, that no one can understand the acts of the Lord, even though great philosophers inquire about them, they remain mysterious. Bhishma says, neither we know. And then he says, Nataswarupam prita ishamanina. Neither we know the Swarup of the Lord. Tatswarupatam. We don't know his Swarup also, because we're situated in the Abhiman of being separate from God. Amshaka. Even though we are amshas of his amshas, they're exalted. You have Krishna, and then you have expansions of Krishna. like the Paramatma. And then you have expansions of the Paramatma like Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva. So they're parts of parts. So they're very close to God in that sense. And the holarchy of being, they're very close to God. Still, we do not know his acts, nor do we know his sarup, because we're situated in separateness. Pratak Isha Manina. We have the abhiman of being separate from God. Separate here means like I'm a separate controller. I have power. I can do things separate. So being so situated, that psychological sense of being separate from God hides the true position of God from our vision. Okay, next verse. Next verse. Nahyasya priya. Nahyasya priya kashena priya swaparopiva. Atmavat sarvabhutanam sarvabhuta priyo hari. So the Supreme Lord is different from this. It says here, Nahyasya priya kashten, not priya swaparopiva. So for the Lord, no one is dear and no one is not dear. He's not having concept that this is mine and this is others. Atmavat sarvabhutanam. The reason is because he is the super soul of all living entities. He's the very soul of all souls, the very ground of being from which all beings are emerging and are resting upon. Therefore, there can be no question of this is mine. Just like for your body, you have the different limbs of your body. You don't think this limb is very nice and the other limb is not so nice. I mean, I don't think anyone thinks like that. That would be quite strange. I like my left arm, but I don't like my right arm. Of course, when you're playing the sports, you may have a sort of predilection, but you feel equally disposed towards all the limbs of your body. So the Supreme Lord Super Soul is equally disposed towards all beings. Atmavat sarvabhutana. Sarvabhuta priyo hari. And therefore, all living beings in this sense are very dear to him. I honestly don't get the flow of these two verses. I was kind of trying to sit with it a little bit. Why he's speaking about, I think it's kind of to the last statement here, the next two verses, that here are the great personalities situated in a cosmic order, but they're situated in separateness. So they don't know God. And God himself is so exalted that, he doesn't have special predilection for this living entity or that living entity, despite their position in the cosmic order. In other words, despite their position in terms of mundane achievements. But he has a special predilection for the bhaktas. So this is the last verse of Shiva here. That's the best I could do. I couldn't see the full sequence of these two verses. These are the last verses of Shiva's statement to Parvati. Tasya chayam mahabhaga chittaketu priyonuga sarvatra samadrikshanto yahyam cha vachuta priya tasmana vismaya karya purusheshu mahatmasu mahapurusha bhakteshu shanteshu samadarsheshu. First verse. So the magnanimous Chittiketu is a dear devotee of the Lord. Tasya chaha mahabhagash Chittiketu priyonuga. So Chittiketu, he is priya anuga. He is priya, he is dear. So the previous verse said God does not find anyone dear or no one not dear. But now he's saying Chittiketu is priya. He is dear. Why is he there? Because he is anuga. Anuga means a follower. It means a bhakta. So this verse is mimicking Gita. The verse from Gita, Samoham sarvabhuteshu name dveshosti na priya. Ye bhajanti tumam bhaktya. Teshu, what is that? Yamante teshu chapyaham. What is that last line?
Mai te teshu chapyaham.
Mai te teshu chapyaham. Yes. So this verse is Krishna saying the same thing. I'm equal towards everyone. I'm super soul, blah, blah, blah. But if you do your bhajan with bhakti, then I am situated in you because I have attachment to you. And you are situated in me because you have attachment to me. So this two verses are mimicking that. He's just described that no one is special for the Lord. Even if they're situated high in the cosmic order, they do not become special because of that. Whereas Chittiketu becomes special because he is anuga, he is a bhakta. I think Sarvatra Samadrikshanto, this is describing the the characteristics of such a bhakta. I'll read the English here. He is equal to all living entities and is free from attachment and hatred. So this is the quality of such a bhakta. And I am also very dear to Lord Narayana. So he puts himself in there. Hiya aham cha avachuta priya. I'm also, Achuta priya means I'm also dear to the Lord of Achuta because I also have bhakti. So here Sri Vishnu gives some comment that's very interesting. What he wants to say is that the Lord and those who are dear to them, you cannot understand the purport of their actions. What is going on inside? Actually, Chittaketu and I, we have an internal friendship. So when Chittaketu made his comments, that was in jest, it was in friendship. And I also had a response to that. So Sri Vishnu gives his response. He says, yes, says Chittaketu, but look at you, look at your position. Externally, you're showing yourself as great bhakta, but you're enjoying with the Vidyadhara ladies in private. That is your particular position. Okay, true. I'm also bound by the woman, but just see, internally, I hide my bhakti and I show myself as a materialist. But externally, you show your bhakti and you're hiding your frivolous activity with the Vidyadhara ladies. Just see, this is the difference between you and I. And this way, Shiva and Chittaketu were having jokes. That's how Sri Vishnu makes a comment. But you cannot understand the jokes of a Vaishnava. Just like Nityananda and Advaita Charya. So the scholars, they think that they were enemies, actually. Many scholars, if you go and read some of their academic works, when they read Chaitanya Charitamrita and they hear the pastimes of Nityananda and Advaita Charya, they will give writing that Nityananda and Advaita Charya did not like each other. Because they were always cutting jokes with each other. They were very disrespectful. That friends and friendship that goes on. So then the scholars, they make writing, they write big papers and they'll say, yes, Nityananda and Advaita Charya didn't like each other. Therefore, their branches in Gaudiya Vaishnavism, they're against each other. They make like this, they speculate. They make some speculation. I was hearing, interestingly, I'm reading a book about Kavi Kanapur right now, a scholarly book by a devotee. He's written a book. And the whole concept of Panchatattva that we encounter in the Chaitanya Charitamrita is basically coming from Kavi Kanapur. He was the first person to articulate this concept of Panchatattva. And part of the reason of presenting Mahaprabhu as his fivefold manifestation was to create a sense of community and reconciliation from the different sanghas that were starting to develop in Gaudiya Vaishnavism from these 5 channels. You know, there were those who were associates of Nityananda, those who were associates of Advaita Charya, those who were associates of Gadadhar and Puri, those who were associates of Srivas Thakur in another place. So to bring all of them into one fold and reconciliation, he's created this concept of Panchatattva. Kavi Kanapur was inspired in that way, and Kavi Raj Goswami, who depends on Kavi Kanapur's hagiographies to weave his story of Mahaprabhu and CC, he also opens up with that. There is no dissension between these devotees. Even externally, you may think, oh, Nityananda and Advaita, they're having animosity. No, there is no animosity. They are actually all different manifestations of that one truth, which is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Deshapila. So the karmis or the neophyte devotees, we misunderstand. So therefore, in Chaitanya Bhagavatam, we get this instruction a few times that when Mahaprabhu's devotees, they are fighting, you should understand this to be the creation of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Chaitanya Srishti. This is the creation of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Don't take sides. If you take side of one opposed to the other, you will be destroyed. They will be fine because Mahaprabhu has created this situation only. Abhuta Karmana, we already heard today, Abhuta Karmana. He has created this situation, but if you take the side of one opposed to another, you will be destroyed. So we get this instruction many times in Chaitanya Bhagavatam. We have to be very careful. Krishna's devotees and how they interact with each other is mysterious. We do not always understand the purport. So here, apparently from this first verse, he wants to tell this to Parvati, that you made a mistake, you misunderstood. We were actually having internal friendship like this. And now you would have come to know, but you were a little bit, what's the word I'm looking for? It begins with an I, impetuous. You're a little bit impetuous. And as a result, now you've made this curse. Anyway, this was Krishna's arrangement, apparently. So hearing him think like this or say like this, then the second verse is spoken. She's astonished. So he's saying, Tasma na vismaya karya. Don't be astonished. Why you should be astonished by this? Do not be astonished by this. And I'll read the translation. Therefore, no one should be astonished to see the activities of the most exalted devotees of Narayana, for they are free from attachment and envy. They are always peaceful, and they are equal to everyone. So don't be astonished. These are the acts of the great souls who are devoted to the Lord. They are peaceful, and they see with equal vision. So, yeah, it's very... what to do when great souls are fighting that? Yes, drink some water and mind your business. But if one of those great souls are my guru or my inspiration, then you may have to practice distance from the devotee you are and your vision at the present moment perceiving as having animosity. You have to keep some distance from that Vaishnava. But you should not make too much commentary about that Vaishnava, because this may be all the creation of the Lord, then you will be lost. Incidentally, I once shared this idea with both Tripurari Swami and my Guru Dev. So they were both, I forget how it came out, but it was coming up in the context of something in the context of how I deal with Vaishnava criticism, basically. And so I was telling both Tripurari, the reason I'm putting them together is because this happened almost within the same week. And when Tripurari Maharaj was visiting Chicago, and then maybe shortly after that, my Guru Maharaj came. And so I said, I was sharing these verses from Chaitanya Bhagavatam. And both of them said, yes, but you have to have discernment also. And I laughed because I got the same kind of instruction from both of them. You still have to be discerning. I was like, absolutely, but this is how I'm trying to discern and not get in trouble. Otherwise, you make the discernment and you cut yourself. Because the nature of discernment is cutting, right? That is the sense gratification of the intellect. It has to make distinctions between things. It cuts, in other words, right? Something looks uniform, and what will the intelligence do? It will cut it up into different categories and subcategories. So the intelligence, that is its function. The function of intelligence is to cut. So if you're not careful, you'll cut yourself in the name of intelligence, and you will be lost. You'll be lost. So we're getting this sort of warning here. You did not understand what this inner relationship with the Vaishnavas, and you use your intelligence, and you made a cut, and that cut ended up being like aparat almost. You made offense to. Actually, this is the arrangement of the Lord. So be careful. Rupa Goswami, he also tells us to discern in text number 5 of Upadeshamrita. But then in text number 6, he says, be careful. Don't see from the material point of view, looking at their swabhava and their vapu. If you cut like that, you will cut yourself off from bhakti. You'll be finished. Okay, so I think that's the last verses there. And then the passage comes to an end. I will just read the last verses. This is all that Shiva has to say. And then the chapter basically closes. Shukadeva Goswami closes the narration. I'll read them. O king, after hearing this speech by her husband, the demigoddess Uma, the wife of Lord Shiva, gave up her astonishment at the behavior of King Tritaketu and became steady and intelligent. The great devotee Tritaketu was so powerful that he was quite competent to curse Mother Parvati in retaliation. So it wasn't that he was being humble because he didn't have any power, which may be our case. But instead of doing so, he very humbly accepted the curse and bowed his head before Lord Shiva and his wife. This is very much appreciated as a standard behavior of a Vaishnava. Etava sadhu lakshana. This is the sadhu lakshana, that even when cursed, they will bow their head. So this is sadhu lakshana. But I don't want to be exploited. You're not a sadhu, so you think like this. You're not a sadhu, so you think you think someone has independent power of God to exploit you. So you always will be stuck in this sort of thinking. So what to do? Nothing can be said to do. Follow your own thinking, see where that gets you. And then when you become humble, then you can try to follow sadhu lakshana. Being cursed by Mother Durga, that same Tritaketu accepted birth and the demonic species of life. Although still fully equipped with transcendental knowledge and practical application of that knowledge in life, he appeared as a demon at the fire of the sacrifice performed by Twashta, and thus he became famous as Vitrasura. My dear King Parikshit, you inquired from me how Vitrasura, a great devotee, took birth in the demonic family. Thus I have tried to explain to you everything about this. Chitraketu was a great devotee. If one hears his history of Chitraketu from a pure devotee, the listener also is freed from the conditional life of material existence. And one who rises from bed early in the morning and recites this history of Chitraketu, controlling his words and mind and remembering the Supreme Personality of Godhead, will return home back to Godhead without difficulty. Yay. And that's the end of the chapter. Anyone wants to say anything? Okay, Subhahari.
One quick comment. First of all, this says at the end of practically every story, the one who recites the story at the end of the day, end of the night, you'll get this is benediction. It's practical set for every story in the Bhagavatam. I remember one time we were trying to, we heard this in Hari Sori used to recite every day 13 chapters a day, and how that can finish the whole Bhagavatam in a month. One time we tried to do that, I think we did only like 3 chapters in like 3 hours. And it was like, wow, it's not easy to do 13 chapters, every day. Just a quick comment there. I was wondering, when Mother Parvati was cursing Chitraketu, Lord Shiva was sitting right next to him, next to her. I mean, he could have commented, hey, this guy has not made an offense, Why let the curse go there? He's sitting right next, not even far. You could see, hey, no need to be angry, this, he's on my side. Why did that, how did that happen, Prabhu?
Harer abhuta karmana. There's no other explanation. Harer abhuta karmana. This is the astonishing acts of the Supreme Lord Hari. What else can be said? I have no other explanation other than that. At least Bhagavatam has not revealed anything more than this. Jaya. Anyone else wants to say anything? Oh, it's okay. Harishama. I think Mother Gals has something in chat also. From Sati also.
Yeah. Hare Krishna Prabhu. This, the word duality hangs me up a lot because when I think of duality, I think of opposites, as we always say. But there are opposites that exist in the spiritual world also, there's day, there's night, for example, there's quote unquote sadness, and distress, and happiness is transcendental, but in other words, there are opposites there too. So why do we only call them dualities in connection to the material world? Is it because we're experiencing those dualities from the perspective of sense gratification?
Yes. It's because the experience is like that. In the spiritual world, there's dualities, as you say, but there's all ananda. So the experience of the duality is all ananda. Even the separation and the despair and all that is also ananda. That's what we hear, at least. Whereas the experience of dualities in the material world is, good and bad. That's how we experience it. Mm-hmm. So they call it as dualities for that reason. But if we're situated in the vision of non-duality, we become Krishna conscious, then api tulyartha darshinam. That's what we heard today, right? Everything you'll see with equal eye, actually. Good. There's no good or bad. It's all wonderful. And it is all Krishna's arrangement. But until then, it's good and bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So Prabhupada would say, when you're situated in vision of non-duality, it says 1 + 1 = 1, 1 - 1 = 1. But when you're not situated in that vision, 1 + 1 = 2, and 1 - 1 = 0. So then you get that sort of experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, Prabhu. I just needed that confirmation. Thank you.
Okay, Shamsaki says, you spoke about discerning and not also taking sides of any Vaishnava, as it may end up in making aparad. I was listening to Parshada Prabhu Hindi class on Jiva origin. He had great difficulty in explaining to the devotees that we have to come to one line of thought with what acharyas have said and what Srila Prabhupada said, that we have to come to one line of thought with what acharyas have said and what Srila Prabhupada said. Devotees were so fearful to accept his explanation and fear of citing Jiva Goswami and rejecting Srila Prabhupada's opinion. Even when Hari Prasad Prabhu said that if you accept Srila Prabhupada, other instances on Jiva fall, you disagree with Jiva Goswami. So devotees were so confused. I felt it's not just Vaishnava behavior that is acceptable to be judged or cited, but their words can have similar effect if there's some contradiction. Yeah, what to do? Is there some question in there? I can see the comment. I can't tell if there's some question or it's an interesting comment though. How to hold the opposites in the mind. Yeah. There's two ways of doing this thing. So you hear two different things. Srila Prabhupada said, Jiva Goswami said. So suppose you have faith in what Jiva Goswami said. So you accept that part. While you have to reject the other part. You don't have to say, I reject this part, so I accept this part. And that way it's all everything. You don't have, in other words, you don't have to take the side of one opposed to the other. Right? That's the energy. And just like I gave the example, suppose you have a perceived notion that some person has animosity for your guru. So you may not be able to associate as long as that's your perception of that person. You may have to keep your distance. You have to keep your distance because your perception at the present moment is this person has animosity for Gurudev. And so that would not be healthy for me. But that doesn't mean you have to reject them as Vaishnava or start making papers on the internet and writing against them and so on. You just have to keep a little bit distance. So sometimes it happens when you're reading, particularly when you're reading. This only happens because of the reading. Previously, when you had to go to Gurudev to learn everything, then there would be no issue. But now because of the reading, we get confused like this. So you say, oh, they're saying one thing and this one is saying the other thing. So, okay, that is your perception. Actually, there is all harmony between all Vaishnavas because their business is one, to give the enlightenment, particularly when they're embodying the function of Guru. The function of the Guru is to give the enlightenment. That is Guru Tattva. Otherwise, they are bhaktas, right? Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Tattva has 6 parts to it. Well, 5 parts. But in the first verse, Kaviraj Goswami says 6, right? There's God, there's Guru, there's Bhakta, there's Shakti, there's Avatar, and there's Prakash. These are the 6 aspects of that one truth, right? So why the Guru is given a separate category, later on, these 6 categories are presented as only 5, Pancha Tattva, right? So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Ishvara, and then Nityananda Prabhu is Prakash, Advaita Acharya is Avatar, Gadadhar Pandit is Shakti, and who is that? Last one, Srivas is the Bhakta Tattva. So the Guru Tattva is not included there. And the second list. So first, opening statement of Kaviraj Goswami, he says 6 aspects. But later on, he presents his Pancha Tattva. So why the Guru is coming as extra in the first verse? Because the Guru is also a Bhakta. So you could also just present him as a Bhakta, but when the Bhakta is embodying the function of Guru, it is to give the enlightenment. You understand? So to give enlightenment is a very interesting task because to enlighten someone, that means you have to enlighten the someone that you're talking to. And they have their own some scars, their own context in which they're coming and things and so on. So we may see difference between acharyas when they're playing the function of Guru. We're making perception like that because they're giving enlightenment to a certain period in time to a certain individual. But actually their business is only one business, to give the enlightenment to that particular individual. And how to bring them to the right mark takes variegated strategies. So there is no difference between what they're saying. That is only our perception. But if you are having perception of difference, then like my suggestion with the so-called perception of, the animosity of one towards Gurudev, you may, with a particular sort of subject matter, you said this one is makes sense to me and is giving me faith, so I accept this one. That doesn't mean I accept against that one. This is also good. It's also giving the enlightenment to a particular person and helping them move along the way. But from where I'm standing right now, this is the one that makes sense to me. It's helping me to embrace the theology, which is only fundamental for getting the real thing, which is the experience of Krishna consciousness. The devotees be acting like their theological understanding is itself akin to the goal of life. No, all of the theological understandings that get you rooted in the work of preparing your container for receiving the ultimate gift, bhakti rasa. So the Guru may preach this one in that way to give enlightenment to that generation or to those individuals. Jiva Goswami is preaching another way. They are all embodying the function of Guru, and only we are seeing difference, but there's no difference. They're just doing the work of Guru. So but if you see difference because you're a conditioned soul, then you can accept the one that helps you to embrace and surrender. That doesn't mean you have to reject the other. I just accept this part. That is helping me to embrace Krishna consciousness. Very simple. Yes, he gave example of Srila Prabhupada explaining to Christians how we came. And Gaura Govinda Maharaj explains that Srila Prabhupada used this kind of false example to relate to the Western world. Sure. So anyway, different devotees will have their different explanations for why Prabhupada said this, why Prabhupada. My position is that unless you ask Srila Prabhupada, how do you know? Unless you ask, how do you know? So people go, what if Srila Prabhupada? I don't know. I have to ask him. This is my, whenever anyone asks me what did Prabhupada mean by something, I would just say I would have to ask him. And so what I'm going to tell you is what I understand. And I can tell you that that is what Srila Prabhupada meant. But actually, that is my understanding. Yes. So actually, the way to do it is why it should be a big deal. The Bhakta, when he embodies the function of Guru, he has to do all sorts of things to bring the enlightenment to a particular generation or individual. So you accept the one that helps your embrace of surrender in Krishna Bhakti, and you don't have to reject the other. That is fine. There is no problem in that. That way you don't have to say, oh, this Guru said, but that Guru said, now they're actually saying differently. There's a contradiction. No, why are you going to? You don't know for what reasons they're saying in that particular way in one place, and saying in a different way in another place. And this way, be peaceful. Have the peace. Everyone should be peaceful. Harisham says, the paragraph in question. Here's a difference between male and female that exists even in the higher statuses of life. In fact, even between Lord Shiva and his wife. Lord Shiva can understand Chitraketu very nicely, but Parvati cannot. Thus, even in the higher statuses of life, there's a difference between the understanding of a male and that of a female. It may be clearly said that the understanding of a woman is always inferior to the understanding of a man. In the Western countries, there is now agitation to the effect that men and women should be considered equal. But from this verse, it appears that woman is always less intelligent than man. Is there a reason you wanted to share that, Harisham?
Yeah, I was just wondering if you have any reflections on this controversial paragraph.
This is my response, laughing. Shyam Saki puts the angry emoji face. This is my response to laugh. I don't know what am I supposed to say to that? Yeah, I got it. We got it. I'm sorry. Yeah, we got it. We totally got that. What am I supposed to say to that? I think this is true to some degree. The psyches of men and women are very different, like categorically speaking. So I don't think that can really be dismissed, at least dismissed so easily. But that categorical difference means that women are categorically always less intelligent than all men. That doesn't make any sense. As like a ontological category, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. I'm sure we know many women in our life that are way smarter than us. So, but that there is a distinction between how male psychology thinks things and how women's psychology thinks or perceives things. That's true. As it is true that between the sexes within the category, they see difference. So why Prabhupada wants to add that there, I don't know. That's why I said with these sorts of things, you would have to ask Srila Prabhupada. Now I'm safe. I don't know the answer to that. But it's a funny paragraph, though. Love it. I love reading stuff like this because it just challenges me to for me, it's like Prabhupada giving a challenge to my sort of lazy, oh man, I created equal. And Prabhupada's like, put the brakes on that. No, it's not true. And it took me a while to come to terms with that when I first joined, but it is a fact that all men and women, we're not created equal. We're actually created unequal. That's a fact. That's just like a material fact. Now, how that plays out, categorically, who can say? Kali Yuga is such that because we all have iPhones, we're all equally stupid. So I don't know if we can really be fair anymore. Parvati was acting less intelligent to fulfill the Lord's plan. Sure. When Bhima wanted to kill Ashwatthama, Draupadi wanted to forgive. So here thinking is different. Right. Whatever. We'll give some of the explanations. If you ask a more liberal-minded devotee, he will say one side. You ask a more conservative-minded devotee, they'll say another side. And this way, fighting will go on, and it will be very entertaining. But for us, it is better to probably keep our eye on the prize, which is Sadhya Bhakti. Who cares who is less intelligent or more intelligent? The real question is, who has got the Bhakti and how I can get it? Why we should worry ourselves about who is less or more intelligent. Great paragraph, though, super funny. All right, anyone else wants to say anything?
I just want to appreciate real quick this last conclusive point you made that, who cares who is more intelligent or less intelligent? Because sometimes it's really frustrating to watch devotees get super argumentative about these kind of ideas and principles. And first of all, like you said, we don't know what Prabhupada meant. We're not with him. And second of all, what does it even matter? You know what I'm saying? But because the intelligence and the motive passion likes to dissect and argue, and then it just distracts us from the actual purpose and goal. Although I wonder how I would feel about this if I identified as a woman. Let's say I identified with the body of a woman and I read that statement. As a man, I can sort of pass it off and say, who cares about these things? But let's say Prabhupada wrote in that paragraph that young men from India who come to America to study are all demons. I wonder if I would have that same level of detachment. I'm not sure.
You should. Why not?
I know. I should. I know I should. But I'm just saying I can see why when that identification is stronger, those statements are harder to just let go of.
Sure. So that means the problem is not with the statement. The problem is with the identity.
Right.
So
actually, this is exactly what I've been chomping at the bit to say, that the whole problem seems to be that we identify as females, and so when a statement like that is made, then all of a sudden we forget that we're not the body.
Yeah. People like to call it a spiritual bypassing these days. But when I first joined, I was so relieved to hear that I wasn't the body. I was like relieved. I was just like, oh my God, what a relief on so many levels. And then, I started hearing Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and it was great. Then I remember watching Prabhupada Memories. It wasn't a Memories, it was like an interview with Prabhupada. And he said, even these Negroes in Africa are joining the Hare Krishna movement. And it was hilarious. So I started laughing. And the devotee, Revasananda Prabhu, as you all know, who trained me in the beginning, he immediately paused the video. And he was like, you find that funny? And I was like, it's hilarious. And he was like, well, why is it funny? I said, well, because I know people's sensitivities are such that when they hear the word Negro like that, they get like kind of upset about it. But Prabhupada is saying it kind of nonchalant, matter-of-factly. And you can see he's not meaning anything racial about it per se. That's probably how he grew up referring to Black people. So I said, just knowing the context in which I'm hearing this, I think it's really funny. And then he said, well, aren't you upset about it or a little perturbed? I was like, why would I be? I thought we're not this body. What's the big deal? And then he was like, when I first heard this, I was so upset. And then we started having like a conversation about it. And I was like, the problem is not with the statements, the problem is with the identity, honestly. And so even if the problem is deemed problematic, let us not forget what is the underpinning of that problem. The underpinning of the problem, or what belies that problem, is the identity with that which we are not. And unless we really appreciate that, then we'll get lost in our abhimana, right? This is what the devatas were saying today also, right? Pratak isha manina. Because we have this abhiman that I'm a separate enjoyer. So that is what is causing the difficulty for us. So why don't we embrace that? That is our metaphysics, actually. That this is actually what is causing the problem with us. So when the Black Lives Matter thing burst out in 2020, and then Nam Ras wanted to interview us. He interviewed 4 Black devotees, myself, Ekavirya, and what's her name? Braja. I'm forgetting her name. Braja from Girinagri. Braja Leela?
Braja Leela.
Yeah, Braja Leela. And Kishore Gopal. So, everyone was there talking about, I was just singing to You're Not the Body. Like, I wasn't moving from that. I was like, you're not the body, blah, blah, blah. And they were like, well, people need to be educated. And I was like, educated? If we can't understand that on the spiritual platform, we're all uniform, but on the material platform, we are different. What other education is going to help us to get over this? Because the differences aren't going away. That is just the way of material nature. And you can't train someone to not be racist. You can try, but according to their purva samskaras and their nature, it's going to come out like that. So Krishna says in Gita, he gets 20 items of education, right? Amani tvam, adhambi tvam, ahimsa, shotram, arjavam, etc. And he says, aside from this, everything else is ignorance. So if by this training that Krishna mentioned in Gita, if that doesn't solve the problem, then no other sort of education is going to solve the problem. So we should stick to our education only. Real education means this education only. And because of that, abhiman, we've lost we get lost in these things, and then we'll be lost. So then you have so many devotees that will be walking around self-righteously. I'm anti-racist. Okay. You get to still be in samsara after that. You know what? And you get to be whatever you were fighting against, maybe because of your absorption that you'll get to be that in the next life. Like I always joke, for those of you who know me, I don't identify with my race very deeply, never have. And I've said this joke many times that I think in my past life, I hated Black people. And as a result of that, being absorbed in Black people, I became Black. And now I had to get that experience because I was so absorbed in Black people. Now, okay, it is a joke. So mind you, it is definitely a joke. I'm making a joke. My bad relationship with Blackness is just growing up around a lot of ghetto Black people and being picked on a lot. So I have a lot of bad scars around that. But I like the way that
either that or you're actually my parents' own child.
Anyway, so why we should make ourselves absorbed in this way and get lost in prakriti? Better we follow what Krishna is telling. Very simply, hey, you're not the body, you're a soul. Hey, you're the Tatasha Shakti of God. Hey, your constitutional position actually to serve God. And that way, experience joy. I'm here, this one girl here in the ashram, her name is Asha, a very beautiful young Black girl, super funny. And, she and I are connecting. Our personalities are matching very well. And she was saying how before getting into bhakti, she's new, she was really into this social justice and the Black issues and this, that, and the other. And she said, I just got tired of being angry all the time and feeling like a victim and feeling miserable. And so it occurred to me, and she started engaging with bhakti community, that the real issue is something a lot deeper than just this stuff, something internal. And now, I'm feeling happy. I was like, bingo. I said, that's my whole policy. Don't disturb my happiness with this nonsense. Black Lives Matter, this, that, and other. I'm already miserable enough. I want to be happy. I don't care. Do whatever you want. I don't care. I don't want to hear about it. Or your spiritual Bible, whatever I'm doing, I'm going to keep my peace. I'm going to keep my happiness. That's my bottom line. And that way, be happy and make advancement in Krishna consciousness. Forget this world. It's so stupid, especially in Kali Yuga. It's out of control. What about the Muslims? No comment there. This is live stream, right? And your picture is on. Everyone can see who you are, so you gotta be careful. Talking about a particular religious group. I'm absorbed Black Krishna, yes. Said it's truly fearless. Okay, so we'll stop here. Hari Om Tat Sat. Thanks a lot. Have a good rest of your day. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Guru Guru Varga ki jai. Go Premanandi. Hari Hari Bolo.
Thanks,
Hari.
Prabhu.